I'm glad to finally meet Lobyn. I have not actually met you. I've seen your work, but I haven't met you.
Good to meet you too.
So people are slowly coming in, and we have Quincy, and we have Christina, we have Jackie and Rocky. So thank you guys for coming in, and then we're on live in Facebook as well. So we thank you guys for coming in and joining us tonight for another round of collector shenanigans. So I have the extreme honor and pleasure of oh Lord, the extreme honor and pleasure of having Walter Lobyn Hamilton with us this evening. I'm so excited. The interesting thing about this is he and I don't really have a close relationship, or we don't really know each other all that well. But I can tell you about the first time when we were talking last week. I was telling you about the first time that I actually met him, which is I have to go down memory lane a little bit at the Harlem Fine Art Show. At the SunTrust building in Washington, D.C. during the Congressional Black Caucus.
Wow.
And I, Ted was taking me around, introducing me to various artists, and he was saying, I gotta take you over here. I got something I want you to see. You know how Ted is.
That's a good Ted.
That's it. Yeah, I gotta introduce you to this man. I was like, okay. And so I got to see his work, and it was so interesting to me. I said, this work looks really familiar. And then he said, oh, he had work on Empire. And I was like, oh. And then it really clicked. And then I had the opportunity to pick up this trusty little phenom of a book, because you guys know I like collecting books on African-American art, right? So can you guys see this one? Right? Fired up?
Yeah, right.
And it's a book on Peggy Cooper Catfree's collection. And then I was going through there, and Mason was like, he's in the book, and I said, and then I looked back through the book, and I said, oh yeah, he is. So I realized that I'm still just kind of like in awe of how artists create. So I wanted to share some time with you and share it with my collector friends and other individuals and emerging artists. Rocky is an artist as well. So I know that I'd like to, people are still coming in, have questions for you. This is the deal. This is how it works. I have about 5 questions and a bonus question. Right? I have 5 questions and a bonus question that I may get to and I may not. Considering how you vibing and flowing. And then we open it up to all of the participants, and they get to ask you whatever they want to ask you as well. And it can be about anything and everything art related, collector related, artist related. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. You ready to go?
Good to go.
Okay, we're ready to go, you guys. So, how did your journey as an artist begin?
Like most people, when you pick up a crayon when you're at a restaurant, or you're given something to doodle on when you're at church or Sunday school or whatnot. I think like most, we start in certain places and eventually we stop. We stop playing the keyboard, or we stop playing the trumpet, or there are these times that we begin things, but then we leave them behind in adolescent or teenage or college years. But it's just something I held on to throughout my life and carried it. Going on. I'm only 35, so nice. I've been doing visual work since I was able to do it, and I haven't stopped yet. So
you said you started out in church and crayon. Well, you said crayons and doing things like that. Yeah, when did it become real for you, though?
I think Legos. It became real.
Okay.
spend a lot of time alone, like a lot of artists do. If you don't start out doing that, you end up, if you do studio work, um, alone a lot, and playing with Legos early on. And then probably elementary school when one of my drawings was entered into a contest. It's called the Indy 500 Festival, I think, is it? And my work was at the Children's Museum, and that was a big deal.
It'll probably be melted by the time
art shows and different things like that. So that's how it blossomed.
Okay. So, question. One thing though, Houseful, if you're not speaking, could you mute? Because I'm hearing some conversation in the background on someone's phone. If you can mute for me, that would be great. Thank you so much. So what drives you as an artist? I mean, what kind of sends you to that place?
I think it changes over time. Discovery is always the beginning, to see if I can do something, then how well can I do that? And then I move on to other things that may interest me. But that's generally the basis of where things start. It's just curiosity and maybe the challenge of it. I think more now is the why behind it. I want to delve into narratives a bit deeper, because before it was just I was this young guy, 23 at the time when I first started messing with vinyl records, outside of DJing.
Mm-hmm.
Only one that I saw doing that at the time. But since that time, it's like it's a ton of people that just throw it in there, and it's nice to be influential, but it also I've created a lane that's now become a bit more crowded, and each time with new discoveries or I call them innovations, that I try to differentiate myself from others in the field. Is just kind of pushing that envelope, finding new ways to be unique, and really paying homage to music, history, pop culture, and a lot of the things that my father and my mother raised me on. So it's a whole heap of influences that come with that. So paying respects to my parental units, my mother, my father, and my grandfather. Like, because I have my father's records still, I have my grandfather's records. I don't break those up. The few that I've broken up with my father's records, I'll let them know ahead of time. But the discovery just changes so much. Right now, I'm working on something that's outside of vinyl, which is my mother got married in a church called Bethel AME. The church is over 130 some odd years old. It's protected by the city. However, the church wasn't able to raise the amount of money that they needed to sell it, and to keep it, so they had to sell it. So now it's a Hilton Inn, and I just want to bid. Yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
And what city?
This is Indianapolis, where I was born and raised. So they had a call to do a project, so I made sure that I got in front of that, and we just got my team and I. It's Mason Archie, myself, and Tasha Beckwith, who's a longtime collaborator. We were able to pull this together, and so the collaborative nature, I think, just in terms of projects and even in terms of property. Samuel Levi Jones, he's in one of the properties that I have, specifically for studio practices, where we subsidize exactly what they would normally be paying, and we provide a lot more than what would normally be provided with studio space, not just given 4 walls. It's a huge TV, Sunu speakers, so there's a brand new kitchen with a brand new, what is it? We have the brand new oven, we have the brand new fridge, so it's wonderful. It's a wonderful experience that's a step above what normally people provide. So I think I went from more of a self-discovery to more of a discovery of collaboration and what can we do together, and what other things outside of just I created this art piece and we put it on the wall space. What else can be provided, and what other areas can artists be better at and control more of, as we create the art world, yet our percentage in it is next to nothing. So it's just continuing to serve and to discover other ways to serve more than adequately, you know, just to try to, what happens when you as an artist start to serve the artist, because who best can serve the artist, because you've gone through it. It's just a monetary issue at this point. So it's just about doing what you can while you can do it. And that's what I'm doing. So I'm discovering things outside of me, mine, and, you know, my vision or historical references. It's just, how do you pay that forward? How do you allow people to gain more along with what you've gone through? Like in this time, you know, not just putting in the historical spaces, but what can be done in this time that you can push things forward with whatever platform or monetary desire you can and will gain. So.
Okay. One question for everyone, because I've gotten a note. Can everyone hear? I know one person said they can't hear. Can everybody else hear?
Hear now. It was me, Brenda. I can hear now.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Lobyn, you back? So, hey, question. And this is totally off script. Totally off script.
Okay.
What piece do you have behind you?
Behind me is a piece that I did.
Like a collage?
They're all
Wow.
album covers from soundtracks. Every last one of them, it's a soundtracks that I had from LPs that I collected.
Okay.
For a good amount of time, and it's actually just a boy looking away from the canvas. And I did a whole piece based on Miles Davis, him turning his back to the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
He was there to play the music, not to play to the crowd. So I spent a good amount of my DJ career obviously playing to the crowd, but then spent a good amount of time as an artist also, you know, playing to the crowd. So just like trying to redefine, you know, why I make the art, who I make the art for, and to go back from, you know, I went from an artist to kind of like a factory worker, kind of back to artist, you know, because after a while you just start pumping them out, you know, you get into this state and you're just pumping things out, and there is time for that, but then it was a time to say, okay, let me reevaluate this and see what else I can make.
Okay. So I don't want to go. I went off script one time, and I have another question about music. And you as a DJ, so I'm gonna save that in case there are no other questions, because I'm inquisitive about music and those who DJ and what kind of music they kind of. Rocky's laughing at me. I'm kind of inquisitive, but we're gonna get back to that, because I want to see if you and I got something in common on that music side.
Okay.
So let me ask you a question. Rocky and I were talking, I'm not sure if you heard us, when we first started out before everyone came in, and we were talking about what's going on in this country, right? And he said, what were my thoughts about it? And I kind of looked at it from two sides. So I wanted to kind of broach the topic with you. How does the current tide in the country, with the civil unrest and the injustice and the police brutality and all of that, affect your creativity as an artist?
I've gotten this question a lot for the past maybe 2.5 weeks, and I know the right answer, right? And I know if I wanted to, how to form this question to a specific way to kind of get the church to say amen. And that's generally pandering that happens a lot of times. At times, I guess I say. But I will say this, that, man, I have dealt with creating out of pain, anguish, resentment, revenge. I mean, that's what I started with, right? When I injured my leg at a DJing gig, and it was the only thing I had going for me. You know, I didn't go off to college. You know, I didn't do specific things I was supposed to do. And the one thing that I had going for me, I like DJing. I didn't go ahead and do what I thought I was going to do. I injured myself, you know, so I started breaking up my records in my basement, and that's how this art form Behind You started. Now, to me, I think there's only so much creative space that you can give to a specific sort of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's just not my space anymore, right? Because it's just like, then you're one police killing away from having yourself debased. You know what I mean? Like, you're one viral sensation in terms of like how it makes you feel. Like, I didn't watch specific videos just because I know I can't deal with that. I can't, you know, I can't deal with specific spaces like that. You know, even before this, with COVID, I didn't run to a canvas to kind of use that as an escape, right? I wanted to understand what was going on, deal with certain things that I maybe have not addressed, because I was able to go here, run here. You know, I was able to sidetrack myself. But I was still, that was a great advice my mother gave me. She was like, just be still for a little while. And that seemed to be the hardest thing, right? And I realized all these things I had put in my way to kind of, you know, distract myself. So when this started happening again, going viral again, you know, my anger for these things is there. My hurt for the people that are directly involved, the ongoing shame for the country that I have for this thing to just not ever truly be addressed in a way of systemic change is all there. It's all there. But it's like, do I want to go in the room and give it more? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am, I don't. I don't. If and some of it, to me, sometimes I don't want to also feel opportunistic as well. That was another thing, you know, it just didn't sit well with me, and that's all we're talking about, and that's all I want to talk about. It just didn't sit well with me. I've seen other people do it very responsibly, very well. I know some of those artists, some of them killed it, some of them missed the point, but most people, it came mostly from a genuine place. But I lead with other things now.
Right.
And those other things, they take a long time to, I was telling this to somebody else. I was like, man, revolution is some of the most boring and monotonous shit you'll ever do if you're doing it right. It's just boring. It's the day-to-day. It's when no one's looking. There's no, like, that day-to-day huffing. It's 10 years. It's 15 years. It's 3 years. It's 2 months. It's 6 months. It's just, it's really a specific calling that isn't as glamorous and isn't as energy charged as, you know, folks try to make it seem in that moment, because that moment is anger, fury, things bottled up for a minute, past a minute, you know, so that's understandable. But you know, I don't need that spark of symbolic martyrdom to kind of get me going again. Just like I don't need somebody to do me wrong again to translate that into energy, and then I make a piece about it. I'm like, now I got them, or like, now they'll love me, or like, now I'm gonna really get them. I'm gonna really show them. You can exist in that. I've existed in that for a very long time, but you know, I'm kind of past that point for me in terms of turning specific things into art therapy. So I take in what I can. I'm learning a lot though. I realize I have a lot of preconceived notions about specific things that, you know, I've taken time to look at even before this standpoint, and I'll continually do so. I'm taking in new information from, you know, people that are 20, 21, 22. That's, you know, you think about it this way, see it this way. So I have taken the time to just listen a little bit more and to see who's up next and how can I help for the foreseeable future. Because I'm gonna be here regardless if something goes viral or not. And my black expression isn't derived from specific spaces. The antecedent that has to happen for us to talk about this is part of me, but also too, you can hate slavery but not love the enslaved, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can do a lot for specific things, but you're just talking to power. You're obsessed with power. I'm more obsessed with serving the people, which is they're not mutually exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, the serving, the doing, even, you know, being a father, like all of that, you know, being a better brother, better son, all of that, small pieces, you know, small pieces. So that's where I'm at, and that's how I manifest things.
So, wow. Whew. I have a couple more questions, but I think that's a good time to stop and ask any of our participants if they have any questions. Shout out to Michael. I'm glad you could make it, man. Michael C. Gibson. And shout out to Mr. Catlett. I'm glad that you can make it as well, sir. Yes, he's in the place. He's in the house. I'm glad that you can make it.
Mr. Moore.
So, does anybody have any questions?
I wanted to hear a little bit more about what you were doing now. When you had mentioned you didn't mention taking a break from the vinyl, but you said you were going in a different direction. I was wondering what you were looking at.
I'm looking more actually at structures, buildings, architecture, interior design. I had the infinite wisdom to purchase a church building and a 8,000 square foot lot.
Wow.
January, and I bought the house next to that lot in February, and then the bottom fell off in March. So,
no contractors around.
Oh man! And then the bottom keeps getting to a new bottom. It's just like, oh man, it's something though that I'm interested in. A lot of times I've gone into spaces where I bought my first place across the street from where my parents moved to once they met in Chicago, in Indy, and they got married in that house. I'm a single father, so I needed to be close to family. So I bought the building across the street. I fixed that up over time, and then I'm no longer in that building, and Samuel Levi Jones is in that building currently. So directly down the block is the church building. It's a brick building. It's not a Gothic church or anything. So it's a brick building, lot, and home. So again, it's a situation of Indy can't sustain a specific creative capital for people of color. So either you can export that work elsewhere, like I've done throughout my career, or you can make it so that they have better amenities in the city. So I'm using a lot of my my desire to, number one, buy places in the neighborhood where I grew up at. I see the gentries are coming, the gentrifiers, they're on their way. COVID slowed them down a little bit, but they also are developers. They have money, so maybe it depends. It may have sped it up. So I feel as though it's just my responsibility to say, if I'm going to when this happens, I also need to have some sort of equity in the neighborhood that I always shake my head when people come through. You know, some skin in the game. That's all I'm saying. And that's really, I've really ignited something different. You know, getting the windows put in, designing those windows I did, designing the front structure that I had redone on my first studio. Artistically, what I'm doing more of is just whatever I feel, and giving myself a little bit. It's not a lot. Now, again, you get on these, we start talking like this, and I speak more poetically than the actual day-to-day of how it looks. You know, I'm trying to give myself some leeway to fail, to discover. Not good at it. It takes a long time to find out what you like, what you're good at. You do that thing, and it's like, people love it, people see it, but then people are like, okay, what else you got? You're like, you know how to find my first passion, my first hit? You're like, yo, what's the next hit? Like, what's the next? All right, we've seen that. You're scrolling, you're looking, I'm like, it's like, what do you got next? And I'm like, I'm trying to find that out just like you're asking me, honestly. And what's wild is, my father always used to tell me this about, you know, people you see, you know, at that time it was VH1 and MTV, and then later became BET. But he's like, you see these people, like they've been doing this for X amount of time. So someone who saw me on Empire, I'd already been almost a decade in and doing it.
Right.
So it's kind of like,
Right.
you spend a lot of time developing.
Right.
And when you pivot or you try to do something else, people are looking for that same level of what you just haven't worked on.
Right.
I'm incredibly proficient at certain things, but certain things I'm realizing now, I just don't hop on a new style or something and I'm the same proficiency unless I just got it like that. And either I haven't figured out the new style or medium that really connects. Buildings was truly connecting right now for me,
Right.
because it provides function, design, creation, but it also has some sense of utility. Like, and that sense of utility is what I like more, from a ownership capacity, which a lot of people in my city haven't seen before. And it's very interesting, the other things you start to want to learn about. You want to learn more about city, you want to learn more about zoning, you know, all those things. Before it was kind of like, oh, that's for them over there. And even not, it's just not even for them over there. It was just, it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. So now it seems I need to be a bit more aware of specific things. And I like that. I like that. And that's really been a joy, just and a heck of a lot of stress, but a joy.
And it's all interrelated: architecture, design, art, it's all interrelated.
Yes, very much so.
I know, Jackie, I have to mention, I always saw that with you, not just your passion for art, but I could see where the design element, the interior design element, always, you know, showed through with your talents as well. It's all related.
Jackie, what do you do?
I'm sorry, I had to figure out how to unmute. I'm actually a gallerist. I own an art gallery in Maryland.
Yeah.
So you understand the function of design.
Not just your passion for art, but definitely.
That's great.
Thank you.
That's great. Really great.
Any other questions? Because I got a few. Rocky, go for it.
How did fatherhood change your art making? And when did that happen? And what is your situation?
I'd say fatherhood changed it. Let me have a second to think about that.
That's a big one.
Yeah, right? Yeah, so responsibility is really big with my family. I learned that from my father. He's a, first generation out of civil rights, so it was family, responsibility, job, house, wife, cars. Um, not particularly in that order, but education. Um, so I remember somewhat almost turning into my father during that time process. You go to work, come home, dinner's at a certain point. And I remember working extremely hard. I'd wake up before work, do artwork, go to work, come home, eat, be with the family. My son goes to bed, 8 to 11, 11:30. I'm doing artwork. I go to sleep. On the weekends, I would do artwork. Saturday and Sunday, probably 12 to 16 hours. It was difficult at first because I put myself in a situation financially where I had to do artwork to supplement income because I was trying to afford a lifestyle for an image to my significant other because she really needed that for her identity. And I just didn't want to fail, right? You just don't want to fail your family. And there's a huge sense of responsibility there. I made some of my, I guess, my deepest work during deepest work during the time uh, he was in his mom's womb till maybe he was about 2, because it was a discovery all around. I was a brand new father. Um, I had both parents. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, so I kind of already had these predefined ways that parents were supposed to act and how we were supposed to, vibe off one another. But that's not what she had. She didn't have a father in her life, so she had a very different understanding of, how this was supposed to operate. And you can see the tension in the work. Like if you look back at 2012, my work in 2012, 2013, it was just the work it really is the work right there really is something else. I took off 3 months when my son was born from FMLA, so Family Medical Leave of Absence, so I can be with him and her. That was the first time I took my first shot at being full-time artist at 3 months. And it was really hard to go back to work because it just didn't I was doing spreadsheets. They gave it a cool name, trust fund management, but it's another overload. It's data entry. It's cute. Oh man, look at you, trust fund management, just data entry. And it was such a soullessness when I went back to that job after 3 months of doing art and seeing a child grow. And that didn't last for too long, and I've been in family court for the past 4 years. So it's been a really tough thing. I'm going through something similar now, and it's just, yeah, being a father is probably one of the most challenging things. Art's easy. Art is easy. Oh man, just there's no back and forth. I do what I want. I work when I want. I inflict whatever. It's all me. Art's easy. Maybe the art world is a little different, right? But the actual me, medium, and substrate, I got that down. But fatherhood, especially with a dishonorable partner, can be a very difficult journey. So it's impacted my work a lot throughout the years. And I'm sure if I wanted to, I could trace the times when, when I was doing well or something like that, almost synonymously, the better the opportunities got, the larger the projects, the worse off my family life got. In every single manner. I went full time. My son was, yeah. So it's almost a weird, it's a very weird thing, a very weird balance. That's wild you asked that question, because it's been one of those tough days regarding fatherhood. So yeah, that's it's by far one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do, and one of the most honorable things that I've ever been able to do. So the last piece that I ever had displayed on Empire was a piece of my son.
Wow.
And it's a portrait of him in the same sort of series where he's facing. He was actually listening, ironically, to a vinyl record. I bought him a vinyl record player, one of the Peanuts, Charlie Brown joints. So he opens up. And he was listening to Velvet Underground for the first time. So he was just sitting there in the studio. I took a photo of him, and I made that piece. And I made that piece for my own personal narrative and ability to say specific things without having to say it, because you're not going to beat a baby mama on social media. So I try to stay off that, try not to do that. Just like, you know what, it's a great type of silent treatment where you can say what you need to say. And if you want to say more about it, you can. If you don't have to. So, yeah.
What did you put in that piece of your son?
Oh man. So maybe when I mean like my son was gone, I had to go and do a Hague Agreement, which allows for you to extradite a child back from a foreign country. So there's things about that in it. There's things about, manipulation to the name that what they were trying to give him that I didn't want to give him. So I put Isaac Hayes in there because they were trying to give him Jacob, and I wasn't going to allow my son to be Jacob. So, just things from that to
Wow.
About Chicago. They served the warrant to bring my son back from overseas, but to find out that he was already back in the States, but he had moved from Indy to Chicago without my knowing. So, I have something in there about Chicago and from Kanye West and Common's album. There's things in there about Traffic from Low Spark of High Heel Boys. I love that song. It's about, feminizing and making your, son your boyfriend, your best friend. And, if I just buy him a lot of stuff, manipulative, to really large piece on the bottom right, which says from Kendrick Lamar's album, Damn. It just says damn, because in the end that sums up exactly the situation. Because it's like, damn,
Wow.
This is like, I didn't grow up like this. I don't know what this is. Like, I don't know what this is. Like, so this is all a very foreign.
Wow.
So
that piece is in your personal collection?
Yes. Well, currently it's still at the studio Empire because everything shut down. But
but it's your personal.
I can't sell that. I can't sell my.
I didn't think. I just wanted to ask.
I can't sell that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't an Empire watcher past the first 2 seasons. It got a little bit too intense for me. So I only saw the artwork on the first couple of seasons. But I'm gonna look up that piece. Hopefully, I can see it online so I can see what it looks like.
Yeah, just do what we do. We try to fast forward it, or you just when it was playing, you just kind of you hope somebody who does watch you like, oh yeah, let me know if you see my piece. But I think I watched some of the first season and maybe the first episode of the second season.
That was it for me. Yeah.
I was like, oh, this isn't for me.
Yeah, it wasn't for me.
But I love seeing my work on television. It looks.
Oh yeah, it was wonderful. It was wonderful seeing all of the work, you know, all the artists' works on television and the shad pianos and, you know, anything African American, you know, I am for. So.
Yeah.
Well, Christina, that's the only reason why I watch some of the shows is to
I
see
know.
what's
I
artists
know.
on the set. It was Greenleaf, and I don't
Yes,
normally
yes.
watch Greenleaf, or I
Yeah.
do watch Queen Sugar, but
Yeah.
they you know, I watch it, and when I was watching Empire, because I'm like Christina, I couldn't.
Got your tips. I was always watching
It was like, I couldn't. But I will say this: I did watch it for the artwork, because when I saw Lobyn's piece and Jacob Lawrence, and
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, I'm glued, Jackie.
Oh, they had
glued,
everybody.
just to
They
see
had-
who they're gonna have on the set tonight. What artwork
Yep.
are they gonna have on the set
Yep.
tonight? But yeah, that was just like
Empire.
I definitely understand.
There was an interesting story. I was in Dublin, and I was around, and I went on an on and off bus and stopped by the Guinness spot and had a good old time, couple of drinks, lots of food. I come back to the hotel. I turn on the television and I'm just flipping channels and doing whatever on my phone. Of course, when you come back in the hotel, you get on Wi-Fi, check your phone. And then I got back on the TV. I turned on the television and to a channel at the exact spot the first time my work was shown on Empire. And it's maybe 4 seconds, and I was able to see Empire with my work in that small little pass through. You know, when they're walking down this hall. And I'm just like, and I like, usually when stuff like that happens, it makes me joyful. I end up laughing. And those are the things that are like, that's dope. And those are those particular moments. But I think on Empire, I realized that there was this interesting thing where art generally plays the background. Like, other than like in institutions, galleries, you know, it's behind you. Like, it never occurred to me that to me as an artist, it seemed like there was nothing better than art, you know. And it just occurred to me like, oh, right, my shit's on the set in the background, right? Because it's art. So it made me want to be more interested in building. So it's like, I like that wall. What's that wall attached to? Another wall that's attached to a roof that's attached to something else. It's like, I wanted more. I wanted more space behind than just behind an actor or actress. So I think that also helped influence my new work with design and interest with buildings the same way. It's just weird how certain things influence the other. That's one thing that being on Empire helped with. It's like, at the very best, you know, I remember them highlighting Kehinde Wiley. They also did an episode where they, I did see the episode where they did a highlight on Derek Adams. That was wonderful. And I forgot, because I asked for my own spot, but I forgot they were making it seem like the show was in New York. So they got all New York artists to it's shot in Chicago, right? So I go from Indy, I take the work up to Chicago, but you know, but it was heavy with representation from people from New York because of the show being set in New York. So I don't know, it's just things you don't think about that I'm grateful for the experience, and but it made me realize a lot of things, and I think it set me on a different course. You know, it set me on a very different course to have more equity in this art realm, and not just so much in the art itself, and in many ways you can have it in. It helped considerably.
Does your this studio development program that is it a program, or is it going to be a program? Where is that at in terms of development?
Well, like I said, COVID's done a number. So right now it's just maintaining what I have. Obviously sales have been greatly impacted during this time for me personally, right? Which, I'm not a blue chip artist, right? So it's not like, I'm not, I'm an outsider, right? I'm an outsider. So there's a collective that I'm putting together called Sheba Kane Collective, and it's going to have the aspect of living spaces and also training spaces up top in the building, and then hopefully studio spaces in the basement. If we do have enough funding, mind you, I fund all this through art sales. So I've never requested and asked before, and I'm very apprehensive to ask for funding, being that you have to speak grantor and funder, and there's a funnel for that, and there's initiatives for that. But I may have to do that because I'm definitely not going to be in a position where I lose the property. So it's been interesting, collective and the programming, and being in a position where you're giving out equity. People in my city, that's mind blowing. Like an artist giving out coupons? You mean the artist doesn't need coupons? And you mean we're not going to give them a supplemental bullshit income and then get 6 figures from another space because we take pictures of what we did to these poor little children artists? Like, so when you go to these organizations that do that, they're looking for a position that just isn't there for them. And they've never not been in the position where they're not funneling and really calling the shots. And that's been interesting, making an ask. It's been very interesting. It's like, well, who owns that? Well, I do. Yeah? Yes. So how about this? How about we do? I introduced this, the guy's head almost exploded. I'm saying, okay, well, at 100,000, I can give you 40% equity, but over the next 4 years, you're going to dump 30% of that equity back into the system, which is back into my equity. Because if you are saying that you're doing this for community purposes, you don't need to hold on to my property. You just need to be able to see that I'm not a fraud, that I can run this program, and that I am going to do what I said this place was set out to do. So again, it didn't go how I thought it would. So the ownership side of this from an artist whom hasn't built a name for himself like most people would feel comfortable with saying, hey, yes, here's X amount of dollars. I think you really see just how open people are or aren't. Giving a MacArthur Award to somebody who's already skyrocketing is very different from giving someone that same funding for liftoff. And the collective will be just based on doing training, allowing for individuals to have good service and spaces without having to pay an arm and a leg for it. And if we do our job properly and we serve honorably, I believe that we can make India alma mater, because they have to go elsewhere, but maybe they'll honor India a little bit differently than they do. Because a lot of people throughout the history of India, they leave very differently, right? So it's just, if we know they're going to go anyway because they have to, it's just how can we present a better send-off and foundation for them? So it's really about that. And if we can do that to one person every 6 months, 2 people every 4 months, that's fine. A lot of times it seems people need a shotgun tactic. Like, we want to know you serve 100 people in a year, and they need these metrics and photos. It's like, no, we're going to serve a couple of people very well. And when we have the capacity to serve other people at a high level, then we will do that again and again and again. But we must bring up the service to the artist. We love art. We love what the art does. The artist, only if he's, told to us that they're X, Y, Z a lot of times, or their work makes it so you want to investigate them a bit more. But so that's what I'm doing. That's generally the manifesto, if you will.
Mhm. Great.
Okay, just so you guys know, I'm managing 2 Facebook pages in addition to Zoom. And so I'm asking the people that are watching through Facebook if they have any questions for the artist. So you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. Any more questions? Any more questions?
Mr. Mora has one. You have to get off
Mr.
of mute.
Mora.
There you are.
Hey there, it's good to see you.
I'm going to be quick because I have to run to another Zoom.
Okay.
I find myself busier than before.
I know.
Zoom has incremented, the time
Yes.
incredibly busy.
Yes.
I want to congratulate you on your work.
Appreciate it.
I love the thing about the DJ thing. I'm very close to DJ work in Detroit with Carl Craig with the Anderson Orchestra for years.
Beautiful.
And I'm working on an electronic music project myself at this point.
Mm-hmm.
My question is about, Black Lives Matter, and the thing that we're going through right now. And it seems that everybody's supporting Black Lives, and I see a great business and a great benefit in serving, folks, I'm saying, all over, with it. And in one aspect, it seems that, we can make a little money right now, or maybe secure, some fundings, or maybe secure some work, or maybe secure some shows, or something like this, But then on the other hand, I lived through the civil rights movement. So, very unfortunately, I suffered the breakdown of a generation flow. I'm a jazz musician, and I can recall how Black jazz musicians will put their wing on other musicians in order to grow. But it seems that since we were integrated, all of a sudden, the line was broken. As Black folks, on survival, and putting the beans on the table, and to make some free space, for our individual, creativity and work, of course, we had to actually create a new generation of things, So I saw from the last poets, I saw rap growth, I'm saying. I used to sell turntables in Detroit, and I saw techno being born, all this other kind of things. So we managed some kind of a way to survive the next motion. And I think that our real problem is education and maintain those values, not just a thing of the moment, but a thing that we can perpetuate and maybe grow a little bit more out of this turnaround. So, what are you feeling on that?
I think the same in terms of how do you take momentum and this particular time. And I don't know if momentum is the right word, especially if, it's a wild thing, man, mining pain. And it's a wild thing, and there's a certain weight to it and a certain guilt to it to know what this took, the pandemic, like contemporarily speaking, the latest fuse, right? That was lit, the pandemic, and then George Floyd. I believe movements a lot of times are just like anything else. You have to utilize what you have, and this is what we have right now, and it is making headway. So I can't argue with the results right now. The conversations that are being had, the movements that are happening. I can go back and forth all the things that I may be suspicious of, or maybe a little bit. I'm gonna watch this for a little while. But all in all, it's doing what it needs to do. And man, I wish I was a hopeful one, in a particular manner. I mean, someone who's come out of, I remember my father telling me about the civil rights, a lot of uncles and things like that, great aunts and great uncles. And it's, man, that momentum is very difficult. And how do you do that from a cultural perspective and not just from an antecedent by your oppressor? And again, like, because that's not mutually exclusive, serving at the behest of your people is often a very different muscle than fighting your adversary. And I think we only do ourselves a disservice when we don't turn back towards one another. That to me is the hardest shit, right? Like if I was to, say something, it'd be really easy for me to put something up, for the pain that, being checkmated by, white supremacy does to us all. But it's a lot harder for me to figure out certain themes to describe the love for my father, which is odd. But there seems to be an automatic mechanism, a karate chop for certain things that kind of don't translate over in the movements going forward, which I think we have to address ourselves. Like, do we care about one another that much to maintain it? Or do we really just care about the powers that be? That's a valid question. That's a very valid question. And we'll see.
We need to. Moving forwards.
I agree. But that's hard. Like you said, how do you educate someone to love on a level when all you have is a Western capitalistic outlook?
My experience behind has always been that African American, our first mission is survive. Make the day. And once that we put the beans on the table, I mean, I have to raise 5 kids by myself, so I can relate to you being a father.
Yeah.
Put that, and then you have to manage how to be free. And we do set up, the parameters globally. We teach everybody how to do that.
I know.
And we're the last ones to benefit from it.
I don't know. That's like my mother, who always used to eat her food cold because she served the family first.
Right.
She ate cold food for a very long time, and it's just I did get mom to get fat, served, but also have her food hot.
Okay. We go into the airplane thing when they said put on the oxygen mask. You put your ones first, and then
everyone else's. Yeah, I honestly, if I did know that answer, I would have already, been working and moving. The things that I know to do is just, I learned that from my mother and my father: responsibility and serving. And as long as I don't compare myself to the oppressive regime, I'm doing okay. As long as I don't do that, as long as I think of us as a tribal, ancient people, and I look at us as the individuals who can survive a lot of things and who can manifest so many brilliant things, that there is a capacity to do that. And I just need to serve as best as I can my people. And that's the hardest thing. Like, someone is, your adversary betrays you. You're kind of like, yeah, I kind of saw a racist person, or this person, kind of doing that to me. But it hurts though when it hurts in a different manner, right? It hurts in a very different manner when it's betrayal from your own kind. So it's a whole different task. It's a whole different task, of which, again, I don't have the answer for. It's one of the hardest things after
you just keep doing your great work, maintain it, happening, keep pushing the envelope.
Yes, sir.
And we all get there. Okay. Definitely. I don't want to make this a closing statement, but a friend of mine, trumpet player, Cecil Bridgewater, gave me a book. It's called Slave Lives. And the story that most impressed me was the slave that chopping wood, bought himself out. And he continued chopping wood and bought his wife and bought his children and bought some land and built a home, built a barn, and became a smith. So he used to put horseshoes on the horses. And do you know what the next thing he bought himself?
A horse.
A slave.
Oh my gosh.
Because that's the thing to do. And he taught him the trade.
Oh no.
And why in the morning, when he went to the barn to see about his business, the slave was gone. The horse and all his tools.
Right.
And when he went to claim to the authorities that his slave has escaped, well, he's a black man, so nobody's going to look for his slave, right? And it happens. And it
Sorry,
happens.
what book is that?
And it does hurt. But you're doing great work. I really admire you for that. You just keep plugging it.
Yes, sir.
And if you DJing somewhere, just let me know.
Okay.
Hey, so Rocky asked you what, Mr. Mora, Rocky asked you what was the name of that book?
Oh, it's five lives of black slaves, something like that. I can look at it, have it on my shelf and
Okay.
give
Hey,
it.
Mr. Mora, before you leave, I know you got to go, but I wanted to ask Lobyn this question I think you would like. So Lobyn, you said that you were a DJ.
Yes.
So what music, what genre was really moving you back in your DJ days? Was it house? Was it club? Was it go-go?
It started out with disco, because I couldn't listen to any secular in my mom's house. So it was a lot of disco, and then it went to 70s, 80s, and 60s. What? And then by that time, because when I first got turntables, I was 16 or 15, so I couldn't drive. I used to ride my lowrider bike up to the record store, pack them up all in a book bag, and come on back. So during that time period, it was a lot of Southern rap out at the time. So then I would make specific mixtapes. But I grew up on, when people say everything, I grew up on a lot of different genres. My father introduced me to a lot of different genres. Riding in the car with him on Fridays, it was great because he always had a very nice car, and he would have a new tape ready that he taped from his reel-to-reel. So he would splice the tape up, transfer it over to regular cassette tape. And so I know I'd hear all the latest music riding around, or, we'd go to a lake or a river, or we just drive around, we hit the grocery store. So I would listen to, what he had. And from 80s dance, from when he was in Chicago and he was using the reel-to-reel player, he's from Cleveland, he went to Worcester. So he had, a lot of recordings that I would, listen to, and we drove everywhere. We had a deuce and a quarter for a little while, so we would drive this big ass deuce and a quarter. The one where you can put the baby in the back, you know?
Yeah.
That was my dad. So it still is. He has smaller cars now. But, you know, we drove a deuce and a quarter from Indianapolis to Panama City one time, just 12 hours straight in a deuce and a quarter in the late 90s. So just listen to a lot of music that particular way. We used to know, he'd be like, okay, after 5 tapes, we'll be in Columbus, or not Columbus, Cleveland, or after 4 tapes, such and stuff. So journeys were even timed by tapes. And from that point, music has always been just part of my life. Started doing, you know, clubs, not clubs, but house shows in high school. Did a couple of those, and one for a local rap group for a little while. That came and went. But ultimately, I really love DJing. Like, I love being in a room, playing what I want to play. And mixing genres. I love to blend. They call it blending. I call it mixing. But Indianapolis has a huge, you know, mixing culture. Sometimes it gets a little laborious, but I love mixing. I love blending 2 songs together that don't seem like they should go together. And like I mix, you know, Nuck If You Buck the other day with, you know, Sinner Man by Nina Simone, or I'll put like
Wow.
I'll just put odd combinations together, and it works. And I don't share with anybody. I don't, like, that's the only thing I'm sensitive about. Art thing, I do that all day. You like it, you don't. I understand criticism. I do not like. I cannot take criticism, because I love DJing so much, and I like what I do so much. That's like the closest thing to my heart. So when you like, nah, I ain't really feeling it, or I know when I'm playing you something and you're not really listening to it, like rappers, you play their stuff, and they know, oh, that's dope, man, that's dope, and they give it back to you. I can't take that. I'm not sensitive about it. I'm not sensitive about it because I care that much about it. Like, I don't play out because of it, because of the constraints of what I have to play, how I have to play it, when I have to transition. I want to skip genres and eras too quickly. If you're a dancer, you can't get your groove on. Like, you need some sort of structure, and I don't have that. So I just keep it to myself, and
Wow.
I love it.
Build as you feel and go as you do.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Nice.
Got the guts to like share it on social media, but I don't think I could take it. I love listening to it. I work out to it. I jump rope, so I'll jump rope for like 25 minutes. Just listen to the next day.
Do what you do. I gotta go.
Okay, brother.
Good
Thank
seeing
you. The
you.
package is coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Hey, I have a couple more questions. If no one has questions, I have 2.
I
Mike,
just
you
wanted
have a
to follow, Sheila, I just wanted to follow up, only because
Okay.
I didn't hear what he said, what Walter said. You mentioned you couldn't play something in your house. What was that?
Oh, secular music. So
Oh,
I couldn't, you know,
okay.
I wasn't gonna be playing Rick James around my mama.
Okay, got you. Yeah, I didn't hear that, Sheila. That's why I wanted to hear.
Oh, okay. So, Lobyn, Michael has a question for you, but question. So were your parents like ministers or strongly religious, or?
My mom was and is incredibly devout. And I learned conviction from my mother.
Okay.
And I saw really what that conviction cost her, ironically, and I'm the same way. So I do the same thing my mom does, only with the art world and art realm at times. So, you know, this is the law, this is what's written, this is what I'm gonna follow. And there's no interpretation of that, you know,
Right.
this is what the word says.
That's what we do.
Point blank, period.
Yeah.
Right?
No change. Right.
And from that, I disagreed with her respectfully. I didn't take that path, but conviction like that is contagious, and it really builds character. And you can really become very, very well girded, and, you know, you be steadfast in specific things that you really hold dear. And you need to do that in this world a lot of times, because there's a lot of testers. So I learned that from her, and I'm very, very grateful to had that example, where people, because she followed the law of the Lord to a T, the blowback she would get at churches sometimes, because, oh, she thinks she's holier than that. Like, no, I thought this is what we were supposed to do.
Mhm.
Same thing when I do these things, I'm serving or I'm trying to buy these buildings, and all the folks with the lip service, I come up and say, hey, we can get that over there. We can do this. This is the programming. If you have an idea, let me know. Crickets. I see them all the time on social media right now in this moment. Right or wrong. But I was looking at like, oh, I thought we were supposed to do X, Y, Z. I'm like, oh, this is what my mom went through. Because it's just odd. It's just odd. When you do the work, it's kind of like, people are like, what are you, like, who are you? Like, what are you doing? You think you're better than us? You're like, no, I just remember we both heard the pastor, right? Like, am I tripping? We all read, right? Like, what are we doing here? But it's not like that in practice. And I learned that in many different ways. You can feel a certain way that has nothing to do with action.
Right.
How does that relate to the art world for you? That mindset and
there's a lot of things I've said no to, and a lot of things I've said no to that would have put me in a specific place in other people's eyes. And there was just certain things I couldn't do. There wasn't certain things that I was going to allow once I was aware of specific things to continually happen.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that be from a narrative standpoint, even from a standpoint of, hey, there's this client here, would you be willing to because this is being offered, and it's kind of shaky. It's kind of a gray area. Like, no, sir, no, ma'am, I cannot participate in that. There's other things that I won't really get into, but there seems to be especially when you first get in any place, you don't know a lot, and there's windows of opportunity to exploit certain things and be exploited, and a specific pressure. Even now, answering honestly about how I feel about the moment, and I started with, "Hey, I know what to tell you to get everybody in a specific zone. Now, if I'm not feeling like that, if I have a more complex answer." In that moment, who am I? Am I going to extract certain things out of that just so I can build a specific persona, which you can build for other people to say, well, man, that boy Lobyn, he da. It's like, yeah, well, maybe I have this to say about it, and I need to be willing to say that. And that's kind of hard. It's very hard. Like, yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that. Or, oh yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Or, yeah, it's a little more nuance there. Or, no, they shouldn't have been doing that. All of those things, I believe, relate to this. How you make your work, how you inform yourself, your audience with truth, not with this works. I know how to hop up here like a politician, and I know how to manipulate my people because we all know it works. I just don't want to. I don't think that's the best way to do things long term, because you'll find out about me. You're gonna find out about me. So it's best if I just work within the space that I'm genuine in, because I can do a better job regardless. That particular way.
Michael, you had a question?
Yes, I had a question, but I just wanted to encourage you first, bro. I really appreciate your integrity as an artist. I can hear the sincerity in your voice about how important it is for you to be a person who has a lot of integrity about image making and what is important to you in terms of what you put your life energy into.
Hmm.
So that's the first thing I want to encourage you with. The second thing I want to encourage you with before I get to my question is I can also hear, and I really appreciate the desire for you to figure out for us to love each other as a people. You know, we're broken, you know, it's just going to take a lot of patience.
Yes, sir.
A lot of love for us to relearn how to love each other, right? That's what we're trying to do. And I think art plays a huge, just massive role in teaching us and encouraging us how to relearn how to love each other. So thank you for that. That's what I'm getting from you as I'm listening to you. Now, to my question, because it's kind of an artsy question. It's one of those questions that another artist would ask you, and that's this. We all have these little pet peeves as artists that we see that we hate. I can tell you understand what I mean. I can tell. So that's what I'm asking you about there. We all have these little pet peeves.
Yeah.
And sometimes we only talk about it amongst ourselves as artists.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ask you in public, what are some of those pet peeves in art that you just hate?
Narrative where they're talking about they're talking for and about Blackness, not to me, but to outsiders. And I feel left out of my own cultural conversation. When I go to talks, you know, the tier top creme de la creme of certain artists that, you know, have gotten so rich, been doing so well for so long, they have that Elizabethan, yes, darling, and then we have bequeathed ourselves, and you're like, who the fuck are they talking to? And then I feel left out, and you know, I'm in Indiana, so I'm only one of 7 Black people there.
Right.
I realize, oh my God, they're not talking to me.
No, they're talking to white people.
Talking to me.
Yeah.
They're talking at me.
Right.
Using my symbolic journey, but they're not talking about me. They're not speaking life to me. And they're mining Blackness to get higher in the ivory tower.
Yeah.
That's looting. That's looting.
That's looting.
That's looting. That's looting.
I think that's the toughest thing. I think we all use, you know, symbolism. We all use, you know, we use what we can to a certain point, and I understand it, man. I'm not saying I don't understand it. And to a certain point, that's where the checkmating happens, where you have to pass through this eye of the needle, and there are these filters and there's these checks, and you have to like be this perfect Negro, or you got to be Yale, and then you got to be this, and then you got to have this, and then your art better reflect this. And a lot of those markers of what you have to be are from people outside of the culture.
That's
you know,
looting.
It's like, that's my, that's the hardest thing, because I don't feel that the upper echelon of specific creators they're like long-term politicians. Like there's a lot of Al Sharptons of the art world, and they got to make a living. They've understood what works. And rocking the boat is hard. It's very difficult. Saying no to certain things is very hard. And I think we, on the other side, we must do a better job of compensation, because it's not so much that they're going up this ivory tower just because. It's like, if they climb down, what waits for them? Besides, oh man, you said it, you did a good job. Now I'm out of 3 endorsements because I said this. I can't pay child support, or, you know, hold somebody in contempt because I haven't seen my son the entire year because I said the right thing at the right time. So it is complex. And, but I do still feel there are specific steps that at least can be taken in talking, at least, that, oh, and here we go. Okay, now that fed my soul. I can go and now I can use that energy. I don't need to see the same, specific sort of rhetoric to fuel me a specific way. I just want to be refueled by individuals that have really made it a long way. I respect their journey, but I just know they're not talking to me anymore. I know they're talking to their collectors that can afford a $600,000, $2.5 million piece. And that's a can type of culture. And it doesn't trickle down to the rest of us. In fact, they look at folks on this level like, what's wrong with y'all? Collectors on this level like, yeah, the art's cute, but we have this person and they went here and they speak this way. Why don't you talk that about? Mm-hmm. So it's a weird thing of how it manipulates how the rest of us become compelled to speak and write and describe Blackness in this sort of like abstract, poetic sort of, I read all of these, books and I can, I can do this thing. So that's what I'm saying. That's the tough. That's the tough.
It's interesting you put it in the way you do, because you're a DJ, and it almost seems as if, well, I make parallels to the art world, to the music world all the time.
Yeah.
And if you remember, in the 40s and 50s, Black artists couldn't cross over, but when they did, they had to cross over in a very specific way to a very specific audience. Yeah. If you don't come on stage and look like this, you are not going to play the bigger, more expensive places in the United States and around the world, really.
Right.
So it's there's a lot of parallels between this artistic medium, the visual artistic medium, and the music business.
Mm-hmm.
So
and during that era, which is funny, that's what we call our space we're at right now. We call it the Chitlin Circuit.
The Chitlin Circuit, exactly. Right? Exactly.
So we are on that other side,
right,
of that spectrum, and then we're seeing people cross over every now and again, but those folks create their own folks, and they bring them up and kind of keep them huddled. Man, it hurt me so bad one time. Someone told me, don't put that Chitlin Circuit stuff on your resume. And it's like, well, these are the only people giving me opportunity. Like, I'm not going to disrespect these folks that, percentage-wise, a middle-class, upper or lower middle-class Black person buying a piece for $3,000, $6,000, $7,000, percentage-wise, is way more of their liquidity than someone that has, 7, 8, 9 figures buys a piece for $70,000. It's incomparable. So I honor somebody saying, you know what? I got mortgage, I got utilities. You know what? There's Lobyn. I'm paying this payment because I believe in your work. I believe in you, and I want to be a part of your journey. And yes, if that's only $1,200, man, I honor that.
Thank you.
Sir. Yes, sir. No, it's very important. It's very important.
It's odd. It's really odd. And what does that mean for the culture overall when we can't validate our own culture? Like, how's that work? How's that work when I can't validate my own culture? I can't tell other people from the outside what's important. They have to tell me, and then I have to team up with them to do it.
Well, that like the music industry, that's the problem, when other people come into your culture and begin to, I call it rape and pillage. And then, that's what it is.
Sure. Yes, sir.
That's what it is. They pillage our culture. And oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, what they pillage from us is not the best. It's not representative of who we are as a group across the board. And of course, a lot of times people outside of our culture promote the ugliest parts of our culture and not the beautiful parts of our culture. So I think this is one of the reasons why I like to participate in this, is because it brings artists and collectors together. And we can dialogue and we can support one another and we can be around one another, because oftentimes we don't have those connections. We don't have those relationships. and we need to begin to cultivate those relationships. So thank you for coming and sharing your time.
You
I
said
appreciate
something
you.
earlier about the question of asking the conversations that artists have amongst each other. I promise you, those same people that get up on stage and talk at the audience will have the same conversations like this that we're having, but it never leaves that room. It's on that level of who resold work, and which collectors got together and said, this person that's selling their artwork over in Germany right now at 2,000 euros, 16 people got together and said, we're going to all buy their work for $250,000, and they're having these really interesting conversation. Now, all of a sudden, they just made a market. They just basically fixed the market individual, and they're just going to trade in between their rich buddies, and we're just going to keep flipping this thing and flipping it. And it's,
I mean, that's how they do it. That's how they do it. That's how they make careers.
I had no idea. It's like when you sign that record contract, you're like, oh, the promotion comes out of my advance, and then the video comes out of my advance, and then I got to repay you. You thought you was about to make some artwork. You thought you was about to make music. And I find it, yes, I listen to those individuals in those spaces, but then they'll hit the stage and then it'll just all go away. It'll go away. And sometimes, again, it's for many reasons, but I do feel as though there needs to be a little bit more information shared about the depth of what they go through without it being seen as complaining, because no one wants to see somebody that they feel is living out their dream to have complaints. So there obviously has to be language where people can identify with, but that can further talk about the intricacy of specific levels, because there's a lot of artists that need that. And we don't just need to be talking about that in a room among each other where it's kind of, safe. We have to drive those conversations that aren't always bulletproof, that may have holes in it too, because that's the other thing. We hide behind a very obvious, at times, a very obvious point. Like certain things that are like bulletproof, I describe, they're just anything you would say against it would only put you in a box, and that box you can't get out of. And so we kind of hide and gird ourselves behind these main talking points, which makes it difficult to have dialogue and nuance and complexity in that conversation. So it's just approaching with a specific sort of vulnerability, if you will, at times where you may be ripped apart. You may say, I don't know. You may say something archaic. We may say something ego-driven. But I just come from a different space where you can make mistakes. I can be corrected without, being your son for the rest of the time. Like, I messed up. I'm like, oh man, I didn't think about that. You're right about that. But you don't have to be like, and another thing, like, oh, hold on now. Let's, so you have to manage all of these new things if you're going to have a very different conversation that doesn't sound like the same as it always goes, it seems. So I'm still learning that language, and I'm still learning. Still learning so much. So much.
Yep. I put myself right there with you. It's a lot to learn. It's a lot to learn in this business. Can I ask another question, Sheila?
Sure.
All right. Because I think it's sort of dovetails off of what we're talking about. Let me ask you this. Because I think we all go through this as artists too. We're blessed to find something that we truly are passionate about and we love doing, right? And we would do it for free. We don't care because it's our true passion. And then we have to actually step our feet into the business of art. All right, which is a whole other thing. How did you manage moving into that direction, going from, hey, this is my passion, it's what I love, I enjoy doing it, and now I actually have to put on my business hat and I have to actually understand and try to navigate through the business of art, because it's no doubt about it. This is a business. Once you put that stuff up on the wall in any space, once you walk into a gallery, this is a business. So for you, how has it been in terms of that transition and that learning curve that we all have to go through in terms of the art business?
Well, at first, I started showing my artwork, and more specifically vinyl record artwork, because I didn't believe people's feedback when they came over my house and they saw my first couple of pieces. And I didn't, because I followed the logic of no one's going to come in your house and tell you your artwork is shit. Like,
okay, yeah.
That's true.
like no one's going to come in your house and do that. So I wanted to get out there and see strangers, talk to strangers, or just see the reaction. I first showed in the basement of a church, and no one had ever seen the work before there, besides my family. And they were looking at the work, and I said, "What is this, glass?" I'm like, "Nah, it's vinyl records." Their eyes got really big, moved in closer, and I've been chasing that a lot more than money, like that wow factor when eyes get big, and it just seems like you just bust them over the head with something. And then it came to, I got something here. Let me see if I can sell it, because that's another level of appreciation when someone, takes their earned money, of which they can spend anything on, and they say, "I'm gonna designate this to what you do." And again, Black folks doing that, like that's from a person from Indianapolis. I started selling artwork during the recession, man. So a black family buying a Bob Marley piece from me, or a Wu-Tang piece or something else, I was just like, I was dumbfounded. First of all, they told me nobody had any money on earth ever during that time period,
right?
Let alone, Black folks are shopping with me. So, but then when it became true business, and I would say it as, when you find yourself when in your first record deal, that did change things, where numbers began to change. What you got wasn't the money it was sold for. And you began this journey of having to be accountant. Now you have to be accountant, and you have to deliver the work, you have to make the work. But I was still interested, very much interested in what I could do next. But the business aspect, I would say I've enjoyed a bit more maybe than other people do enjoy it. It does become very distracting at times. You may begin to create differently at times based upon it. If nothing else, maybe not you're making certain things to sell, but you even you create at a different pace, even possibly at times, or you think about sizes or shipping, or all the things that you learn about a collector, and how a collector has been taught how to collect work. So now you go from this infinite ability to create, all of a sudden somebody's so-called knowledge of how to collect your work now presses you into this structure. Oh, I'm looking for works like this. It has to be like this. It needs to be like this. It has to be framed like this. It has to be made. Where's your signature at? Is this number such and such? I'm like, what is this? I've now become a over glorified factory worker.
You're a commodity.
I am now working at the behest of your wealth transfer. And that was not something that I even realized I was getting myself into. And now all of a sudden people are spending a specific amount of attention and potentially money. So you do think like, maybe I do want to make something that lasts for someone who's doing X, Y. So it just, you just think differently, and part of it changes you. You change it when you can. I knew very early on, I was making broken record art. So I was going to make the same image over and over again because that's what a broken record does.
Mhm.
It goes back around, it loops around. Certain people didn't like that, you know. I remember making work where it wasn't supposed to last. It was supposed to be created. It was supposed to have its time, and it's supposed to go away. Oh man, you should have seen people's hearts stop. I still made the series. I still made the work because it was like, well, how will I da 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 da, and how will I be able to praise this? Because you know, it's like, I'm not your factory worker. I guess I'm not the artist for you.
Right.
You can go get wealth transfers. You can go get things that you can pass down to your people's. And I have work for that, but I don't work for the collector. I don't work for the collector. I don't work for the institution. I don't work for the gallerist. And because I've done that before too, right? So it's a matter of, what am I willing to take? Well, what am I willing to, you know, maybe which doors I'm not willing to enter into because of that, because there is a hierarchy. So it just boiled down to what I wanted to do and what I wanted to see and what that meant consequentially. So the business, after a while, you don't know it, you learn it, you see it, and then you make adjustments. And I'm making other adjustments. But I can tell you one thing, I've turned 3 passions into money-making ventures thus far in my life. I have 2 more to do, and the next passion I have, I will not let business touch it. I won't let it be touched, because it augments it to a point where it becomes something that doesn't look anything like what I'd like it to, what I enjoyed about it. You know?
I'm of the mind that every artist should have either work that they do or an art practice that's just for them, not for anybody else, for their own pure enjoyment or to satisfy their curiosity, whatever that might be. It doesn't have to be visual art. It can be some other way of expression, but I always encourage brothers and sisters that I meet to have that stuff, that place is just for them.
Yeah, I have DJing works. Now it's with the structures, so I'll probably do the structures for a little while, and then it may change afterwards. So it'll be, I'm doing these homes, I'll design the homes, and then I'll go well, and then I'll maybe do something else. Without being too flighty, because I don't want to be flighty, but it seems like you have to juggle it a little bit, and you know, maybe I'll do art differently coming up, so then maybe I can slow down and reconsider certain things. And I have been doing that as of late. And that's fine, because maybe you've done something else to generate enough for you to be able to take that break. So I think it kind of cycles back into itself, but there's just, at this point, there's no way I can do the same sort of passion business that I've done in the past. I want to keep my passion at the end of the day. And, you know, I was talking to somebody, I was like, yeah, you can turn your passion to a prison real quick, and then you got to escape that passion, prison, to find another one. So it kind of influences, I didn't understand serial entrepreneurs before I started.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. It's like, well, why would this person ever leave this? They're so good at it. Then I'm like, oh, well, you have to, especially if you want to, you know, keep your love for that thing. So I think you always have to keep cycling in and out. But having to do it well, like I was sharing with you all earlier, it's just, how do you do that while I'm discovering, but I also have to do it at a high level. I still have that I don't know. I still have that that bar, I guess. You still have to come with it in a certain way. So I'm a pretty harsh critic. So it's like, it's not there yet. I hate it. You know, I'll keep working on it until it's dope.
Right.
Good. I'm gonna do something else. So I you know, it's a vicious, enjoyable cycle at times.
So it's two more questions. I'm gonna try to bridge it in.
I gotta get out of here. I'm
And
out.
I know we gotta go because you talked about the evolution. What to me it sounded like you were saying is, you know, the evolution of Lobyn,
Mhm.
right? And so you started on this journey, and now you're doing work in architecture and designing and things of that nature. And then at some point, you know, you will be back. You will work your passion, the next evolution of whatever that is, right? And so if you could, I guess the other question I have, I'm gonna try to figure out a way if I can get it in there, but I don't think I may be able to. But if you can look in this crystal ball to see the evolution of Lobyn 2.0 or Lobyn 3.0, whatever the case may be, how do you think that evolution is going to unfold?
Hopefully by distribution and equity. I think I'm very interested in those two things.
Okay.
It's just, how do we help people in the arts, especially in my city, distribute out creative culture so they can live out what they want to do? How do we provide a specific sort of equity moving forward? How do we do that? And from that perspective, in terms of providing, I think that's very important. My last passion I will discover, which I've always wanted to do, and it may sound silly, is I'm going to open up a snow cone shack. So that's number 5. The hardest one to do was
Skylight lemon, peach, and mango mix. It's good. It's good.
This is a joke. Like certain
I
things.
gotta drive all the way to Indy to get myself some mango.
Well, it's not happening anytime soon. That's probably like when I'm 40. That's like a 5-year plan. I gotta.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because if you were in West Baltimore, dude, you would be making a mint at a snowball shack. I'm just telling you. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I digress. I'm sorry.
And please note that 5 years is tomorrow.
Yes,
5 years is tomorrow.
Like that.
Agreed. And I think part of that 2.0 maybe is to do those things that I say I'm going to do, and I look up, it's been 5, 10, 15, 20. And maybe that's the things. You know, I had tunnel vision for a long time to get to this particular place that I thought would open up this Shangri-La, or would unearth another, I don't know, feeling maybe, or experience. And it was pretty anticlimactic. And then you start looking back on the things that you did put off, and you put it off, and you put it off, and you're like, damn, I'm mid-30s. I've been talking about this since I was 16. Like, damn, that was 19, 20 years ago. It's like, how have I been telling myself this over the years and really not told myself to do it, or you know, shut the hell up? So I'd like to maybe venture into those things that may not be newsworthy, and may not be anything that if I was to say it to somebody else, they would have any understanding of what it means to me. So it's more or less those smaller things. Definitely spend more time with my son. Have you know, a less gender bias court system when it comes to, you know, fathers and, you know, their children. That's a huge thing. That's 2.0 for sure. Like, it just rips my heart out, man. It rips my heart out. So I'd like to see that resolved above anything else.
How old is your son now?
He's 9. He's 9 years old. And so I love the lady. She's wonderful and intelligent, and, you know, chocolatey, smooth. She's just awesome. So be with her and just enjoy the small things. I heard Kevin Hart say, he said something that maybe only certain people can understand. He's like, man, I'm so successful. I'm so happy. You know, I'm so successful and happy. Like, the grass makes me happy. And I knew what he was talking about because I had that moment where it's like, you are not surviving anymore at a specific thing. Now it's like, look at that down there. Like, look at that. Like, look at the sun right there. So it's not like, I got to go here. We got to do this. Oh, man.
Right.
Here.
Right.
Fixing food right now. We got to go to bed. I got to wake up. I got to da-da-da.
You have time to breathe. You have time to breathe.
Yeah. 2.0 is like, wow, that wind feels really good.
Yeah, you got time to smell the roses.
Mhm.
Yeah, like that's a nice sunset, and I can and so that to me is true success and true 2.0. Family good, family relationships good, and an ability to look at those micro moments.
Mm-hmm. Well, I, for one, have really enjoyed being on here. I'm going to have to get off, but I have to tell you, I am so happy. Sheila, thank you so much for introducing us to Lobyn Hamilton. I mean, I've known your work. I've kind of followed you, but I am just so glad to put your personality with your work and to learn a little bit more about you.
Thank you for being on the call.
Yeah, because I really, and you know, that helps us to really connect more and to purchase art, you know, when you get to know the artist.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I saw you in passing last December, not 19, but were you in at Art Basel in December of 18?
I was.
Yes, yeah. So I talked to you for, you know, a minute, but you know, it's so crowded and there, you know.
Yeah.
That's not where you meet people, in my opinion. Some people do, but I don't.
I never do. Everyone's busy. Everyone's really busy.
So this helped me to connect with you, and I'm so glad I did.
You know, I really appreciate it. I really
So being respectful of everyone's time, and I said to Lobyn no more than, I think I said 90 minutes to 2 hours.
No, it's all good.
So we're good. But I just want to thank you for coming and sharing with us. This has been such an insightful session. We've grown each time with we've just kind of, it takes on a life of its own every session that we have. And so I do want to thank you for hanging out with us, man. And I hope that you will one day decide to come on in and participate. And Michael was one of the artists that was a guest, and he's been at every one since. And even, you know.
And I missed Michael. Michael, but Michael, I have to tell you, I appreciate your philosophical thoughts. Every time I hear you speak, I'm like, oh man, that brother is deep.
It takes it deeper. It takes it deeper. And so thank you. I do want to share with you guys, I have some news coming. So if I have ways to contact you, I think Christina, I have your email. I need your new email address.
I just sent you an email so I could get your cell phone number too. Yeah.
Okay, cool. We're going to be launching a series of learning sessions for artists and collectors alike, from everything of forgery fundamentals. You know how now we're seeing a lot of individuals out there forging work, to conservation fundamentals and the like. Is courseware. Michael and I have been talking about this for a while, and I'm thankful to say that these things are actually coming to pass. Michael, I thank you for your coaching and mentoring. But we're going to be doing all of this starting in July and going into September and October. We're going to have 2 classes a month, so we don't want to, you know, back to back. So I will be sharing information to you guys, and please share.
Okay.
Courses, the sessions will be anywhere from 90 minutes to 120 minutes. So it's an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending. But these are a little bit different. So when I email you the information, you know, don't have your mouth drop. But these are a little bit different. So I have some folks coming out from my tribe to actually co-facilitate. My conservation specialists will be there, as well as some other folks you all know very well. But so spread that word. It's coming out this week. Information's coming out this week. Hope to see you guys next week. And I'll be sharing with you who the artist of next week will be. But Lobyn, thank you so much.
Thank you, bro.
My goal is to get to Indy. Well, here is my goal before the Ronas. You know how we call it the Ronas. Is I was gonna try to make it out to see Woodrow Nash. And at his studio, and then on the way, hang a left, so to speak, to hang out with Mason for a minute.
Yeah.
We were supposed to do that in March, but the Rona's hit, and I wasn't able to do it. So as soon as we get some kind of pass with the Rona, I hope to make that road trip to see Woodrow Nash and hang a right and then a left to see Mason, and hopefully I'll get an opportunity to see you as well.
Yeah, I'll be around.
Wonderful. You guys have a wonderful evening. Stay safe out there. Stay safe out there.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lobyn. Thank you, bro.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again, Lobyn.